Welcome to Daily Dose of Knowledge. If you've ever felt like you've lived a moment before, you're not imagining things. Stay with us and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. That eerie feeling, a conversation you swear you've had, a place you've never been, but somehow know. Scientists call it déjà vu, and they've spent decades trying to explain it. Most people assume it's a glitch in memory. The reality is far stranger than that. The human brain processes roughly 11 million bits of information per second. Only about 50 of those bits reach conscious awareness. The rest is handled silently, below the surface, without you knowing. Déjà vu may be what happens when those two systems, conscious and unconscious, fall out of sync. Now let's talk about what the brain is actually doing when it happens. Your brain doesn't store memories like a hard drive. It reconstructs them every time you recall something. That reconstruction involves multiple regions firing together: the hippocampus, the rhinal cortex, the prefrontal cortex. When these regions misfire or fire in the wrong sequence, the brain can tag a new experience as old. This is called memory circuit misfiring, and it's one of the most supported scientific theories of déjà vu. Researcher Chris Moulin at the University of Grenoble has studied this for years. His work points to the rhinal cortex as the key player. The rhinal cortex signals familiarity. It tells the brain, "You've seen this before." Normally it works with the hippocampus to verify that signal, but sometimes it fires alone. When it does, you feel recognition without any actual memory to back it up. It's familiarity without source. Your brain is convinced, but there's nothing there. Now let's go deeper into what happens inside the memory system itself. Scientists have identified two distinct memory processes: recollection, detailed memory retrieval, and familiarity, a sense of knowing without detail. In a healthy brain, these two run together. In déjà vu, they split. Familiarity fires. Recollection finds nothing. The result is that haunting feeling of having been here before. Researcher Akira O'Connor at the University of St. Andrews conducted brain scans during induced déjà vu states. He found something unexpected. The frontal regions associated with decision-making, not memory, were most active. This suggests the brain is actually checking itself, running a conflict detection process. Déjà vu may not be a malfunction. It may be the brain catching its own error in real time. That changes everything about how we understand it. But here is where it gets deeper and stranger. Some researchers have looked at déjà vu through the lens of dual processing theory. The idea that the brain runs two parallel streams of perception simultaneously. One stream processes incoming data consciously. The other processes it slightly ahead, predictively. When these two streams fall out of alignment, even by milliseconds, the present moment can feel like it already happened. You're not reliving a past memory. You're experiencing the present moment twice, with a tiny delay between them. It's a fracture in real-time perception, not memory at all. Now let's talk about the neurological side. What happens in the brain at the cellular level? Déjà vu occurs most frequently in people with temporal lobe epilepsy. This was one of the first clinical clues scientists had. The temporal lobe sits just above the ears. It handles auditory processing, language, and crucially memory encoding. When the temporal lobe experiences even minor electrical disruption, déjà vu can be triggered. Neurosurgeon Wilder Penfield discovered this in the 1950s. When he electrically stimulated the temporal lobe during surgery, patients reported vivid déjà vu. Not vague feelings. Specific, detailed, overwhelming sensations of having lived the moment before. This confirmed what scientists suspected. Déjà vu has a physical location inside the brain. It's not mystical, it's electrical. But here is where it gets more interesting. Can it be induced deliberately? Researchers at Leeds University used hypnosis to create the feeling of déjà vu in subjects with no actual triggering memory. They created a false sense of familiarity with unfamiliar words, and subjects reported the exact déjà vu sensation. This proved that the feeling itself can be manufactured. That the brain doesn't need a real memory, it only needs a signal that mimics one. The signal is enough. The brain fills in the rest. Now let's talk about the holographic memory theory, one of the more compelling scientific frameworks. Some neuroscientists propose that memories are stored holographically across the brain, not in specific locations, but distributed as patterns. In a hologram, any fragment of the image contains information about the whole. The theory suggests that when a new experience partially matches an old stored pattern, the whole memory gets activated. Even if the match is tiny. A smell, a sound, the angle of light. The brain treats that partial match as full recognition. And déjà vu fires. You're not remembering a specific event. You're triggering a pattern, and the brain interprets it as memory. But here is where it gets stranger still. Some scientists have moved beyond neurology entirely. A small but serious group of physicists and consciousness researchers have proposed quantum explanations for déjà vu. Quantum superposition suggests particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Some theorists extend this to consciousness, proposing that the mind exists across multiple states of time simultaneously. Déjà vu in this framework becomes a moment where two temporal states briefly overlap. A quantum bleed between what is happening and what has already been processed at a deeper level. This remains highly speculative, but it is being explored in the overlap between quantum physics and consciousness research. The line between neuroscience and theoretical physics is thinner than most people think. Now let's talk about how common déjà vu actually is and what the data shows. Studies suggest between 60 and 80% of people have experienced déjà vu at least once. Some report it regularly. It peaks in people between the ages of 15 and 25, then gradually decreases with age. Researchers believe this is because younger brains are forming memories at a higher rate. More new experiences, more opportunities for misfires. People who travel frequently, watch more films, and read more also report higher rates of déjà vu. The more varied your input, the more pattern matching your brain performs. And the more chances for a false match to trigger. Your experiences are literally shaping the frequency of your déjà vu. But here is where it gets medically significant. Chronic or intense déjà vu, where it happens constantly and feels uncontrollable, can be a symptom of neurological conditions. Temporal lobe epilepsy is the most documented, but it has also been linked to anxiety disorders, depersonalization, and certain medication side effects. There are documented cases of patients experiencing continuous déjà vu for months, unable to distinguish new experiences from false memories of them. One case study from the UK described a man who stopped watching television and reading news because everything felt already seen. His brain had lost the ability to flag anything as genuinely new. That is what happens when the familiarity signal never turns off. Now let's come back to the science and the most important unresolved question. Why does déjà vu feel so emotionally significant, so meaningful? Neuroscientists point to the limbic system, the brain's emotional processing center, being activated alongside the familiarity signal. When the rhinal cortex fires incorrectly, it can pull the amygdala into the process, the emotional core of the brain. That's why déjà vu doesn't just feel intellectual. It feels like something, like a signal, like it matters. The brain is attaching emotional weight to a misfired familiarity signal. And that combination is what makes it feel almost supernatural. But it isn't supernatural. It's electrochemical. And it's happening in your temporal lobe. Here is the final layer. What déjà vu reveals about memory itself. Memory is not a recording. It is a prediction system. The brain is constantly using past patterns to anticipate what comes next. Déjà vu is a window into that process going slightly wrong. A moment where the prediction system fires before the experience fully arrives. It tells us that the brain lives slightly ahead of the present moment. Always anticipating. Always pattern matching. Always constructing reality before it fully lands. You are never experiencing the raw present. You are experiencing the brain's best guess at it. And sometimes, that guess feels like a memory. If that made you see your own mind differently, subscribe to Daily Dose of Knowledge. Drop a comment below with your déjà vu experience. And explore our videos on psychology, human behavior, history, society, and self-help. There's always something here that will shift the way you think.